Innovators and Creators. I'm your host, Sean Fry, and today I'm joined by Jamonn Zeiler.
Yes.
And we're going to discuss his career in creating. He is a luthier who is, as we talked about earlier today, that's someone who makes guitars, and also he's a performer and an all-around interesting man with a lot to say, I believe. Jamonn, so the first thing we were kind of discussing just a little bit before we got started, and you were talking about your influences of your parents and how your parents really shaped you. Yeah. And they created in you a sense of confidence.
Confidence.
How so?
Well, I think parents, their main job is to be there.
Yeah.
To be around. Well, everything I did when I was younger, no matter what I got into, my dad wanted to do it with me. I grew up, with 100 acres to play in. It wasn't ours, but it was our neighbors, and they were my age. They had kids. Yeah. As well, and they were my buddies, and so we hunted. This is outside of Pittsburgh. Okay. And I carried a shotgun around when I was 10 years old, and my dad they were just always there. My mom too. My mom worried a lot, so when you're young and you're rambunctious, the worrying parent, you kind of want to avoid, if you know what I mean. Right. My dad was always mellow and he'd say, Louise, calm down. He's okay.
He'll be fine.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
Now, were your parents, were they musically inclined? Or
My dad was. My mom, she loved to sing, but she couldn't sing. If you know what I mean.
So what did your dad play?
He played guitar. Okay. And he sang, and he loved old country and blues. Okay. Basically what I'm doing with Dennis Henderson. I was telling you about him.
So did you all, between you and your father, did you have a lot of similar, like if he said this is a really good song, were you agreeing, or were you I don't see it?
It's funny because my grandfather played too. Okay. My grandfather played mandolin and sang, and harmonica. I have his harmonica holder that,
nice,
the young Bob Dylan thing. And we would go over to visit him on weekends, and there he would be with his mandolin and a tape recorder. Okay. Just recording stuff. I wasn't interested in music until I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan at 9 years old.
The original
64 performance. And I said to my dad shortly after that, Dad, I want to play guitar like you and Grandpap. He says, okay, we'll go get you one then.
So what about that performance though? What caught you at 9? What hooked you?
They looked like they were all buddies having fun. Yeah. There was I think what the Beatles did is before the Beatles, there was Buddy Holly and the Crickets, Elvis Presley. The Everly Brothers were a duo, but there was no real bands. They weren't that popular then to have the Crickets alone. It had to be.
You always had a leader.
Name.
Right.
With the Beatles, it was 4 guys. And I think that's what they did to America and everywhere. They said, look, you can get together with your friends. Yeah. And you could play music. Hence the garage band storm that happened back then. So in my neighborhood, all the older guys, 5 years older than us, those were the guys we drove our bikes to go see, They're like Tom Petty's age. Yeah. Those guys, I'm 63. They were they'd be 67 or 8 now. Right. And we had one. We started our own band.
At 9 years old?
At 10.
10, okay.
Drummer had, cardboard boxes, and his mother went and bought him a snare drum and a kick drum and a cymbal.
I always love on stories like this too, when you're getting together like that, of how the parents encouraged. How you're, because, I realize things change in pricing, but it's not always cheap to come up with money for instruments.
It's not. And, my dad, just like most of the baby boomers, their parents were World War II vets. Right. And we went into a hardware store, and there were Japanese guitars hanging on a Lazy Susan. Yeah. And I said, I love that one, Dad. He goes, made in Japan, huh? And he said something like, forgive and forget, I guess. We'll take it. My dad was pretty good thinker.
So what was the name of your first? What was the first guitar then?
It was I know the name because I looked it up last year. It was a St. George Tysco. It was a St. George model. Yeah, Tysco.
How long did you have it for?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Did you now?
I wish I still had it.
So the first time, do you have any memory of playing it and what it was like?
I remember learning a C chord.
Okay.
I remember my dad showing it to me and him saying something shortly thereafter. Just you got it. Just play. And I really don't remember playing. I just remember playing.
Yeah.
That's how it was. And it was it was kind of a gift. It really is. I feel like I was meant to do that.
That's kind of funny though, because that was the first chord my father showed me, the C chord, right?
And it's not the easiest one.
No, it seemed.
But it's
my little fingers.
Covers,
I struggled with it. Struggled so much I became a drummer for a number of years. That's how much I struggled with it.
Right.
But that memory though, just on that second string there, where you put on the first fret and you put that down, you're trying to get that right pressure and that to make some sound come out of it. So you had that guitar, you had a band.
We have that burned in our brains, don't we? That first chord. I know I do. I remember where I was sitting and what I was doing.
Why not a D? A D would have been so much better. D's
a little
D.
Easier. Yeah. That's what I showed my brother later.
Was it? Okay.
And my brother has the talent too. He picked it up quick, but he just never worked on it.
Yeah.
So, he could play, but he don't.
Well, it's an odd passion you have to have, and you can't really teach that.
It's true. It is a passion.
You just have to. It's not a knock. It's just some people just don't have it.
For some reason, getting up on stage in front of people is exciting for me.
Right. Yeah.
First time we did it, we played the lead singer. We were the Outlets. That was our first band. It's probably 1966, and his grandfather was retiring. We played at his retirement party.
How many songs did you guys have?
We played 3.
Okay, 3 songs.
And my memory says Twist and Shout, Wild Thing, maybe, and Gloria.
Oh, nice.
I'm not sure about Wild Thing.
Little Van Morrison.
Can't quite remember
them, right? Yeah.
Somewhere there's a photo.
Nice.
And I haven't. It's the lead singer couldn't sing. Joey couldn't sing, but he was our buddy, so he had to do something. And his mother was really excited.
I think that's how Van Halen took off.
And that's right. Joey couldn't sing, and then one day he was sick, and I started singing, and everybody looked at me and said, "You could really do that." I'm like, I guess I can, I'm sure. Let's play it again.
So were you surprised when people said that to you? Or?
Yeah, because I opened up to sing Twist and Shout.
Yeah.
And I just remember doing it.
Right.
Just probably sounded terrible, but for,
if he's worse than you, though.
For a 10 or 11-year-old, it was...
Don't follow the prodigy,
But we kept him in the band. We didn't...
So what did he play, guitar? You learned guitar or bass?
He didn't play anything. Joey was the front guy. Singing out of tune. I wish I had a recording of it. So. Might surprise me.Maybe he was in tune. I don't know.
He was ahead of all of you.
Yeah.
He was more of a sharp.
But it didn't sound good to us.
He was more of a sharp. So you start, you're kind of gigging around, you're playing, and then I guess kind of moving forward or fast forwarding or whatever, at what point did you kind of see, like, this is something you had to do? Like you had to...
I would say it happened when we moved to Akron.
Okay. And who's we?
The family.
Okay.
My dad was a bricklayer.
Okay.
And a contractor. And he was hired by a guy from Akron to come out and build warehouses and a Kmart. Okay. So we moved to Akron. And I moved when I was 13, I think it was, changing schools. Right. In that school was the future Devo. Wow, yes. Yeah, I went to school with Mark Mothersbaugh was like 3 or 4 years older. He was, and that's a lot when you're in high school.
Was he kind of known, though, around? Was
Bob, I recently talked to my high school buddy who I'm doing a music project with. It turns out our principal was a musician. Okay. So during the hour-and-a-half lunch period for all 4 grades, we were able to, the gymnasium was open to play music. Now, this instruments.
This was in Akron.
This was around Akron.
Okay.
It was Woodridge High School.
Okay.
And so there'd be instruments set up in the gymnasium. I remember seeing Bob Mothersbaugh playing a those clear Armstrong, I think they were guitars. Not sure the brand name, but and we'd just have fun playing. And there were a lot of bands in that.
So just a jam in the gym at lunch.
It was a small school.
Yeah.
The curriculum was 700 for all 4 grades. So yeah. It wasn't a big school, but
so you're essentially playing every day.
A lot. Yeah. When you're a teenager, there's lots of other interests like girls and cars,
which can tie in with the music.
That's right. It can. It can. I don't know when I actually got real serious, but I know when I do know that. I know when I heard Duane Allman, I heard at Fillmore East a live recording of the Allman Brothers, and I was like, who is that, and what are they doing, and who are they? You know, I mean, it was the slide guitar Dwayne was playing on Statesboro Blues. I just never heard it before.
With the medicine bottle?
Yeah, the medicine bottle. And the band was just killer. That album still stands today as one of the best. And that's when I really got serious. I think I was 16 or 17.
So you hear Dwayne Allman, and it hooks. This is it. Mm-hmm. Did you try to play like him?
I did. I went and I bought a Les Paul because I was working with my dad in the summers.
Were they pretty expensive then?
Yeah, I think 73 I bought a new one. So I was 17 or 18. Okay. Probably 18. And it was $400.
Yeah, that's
a lot.
That's serious, yeah.
But I made $7, $8 an hour.
Okay, yeah.
You know, remember, wages have not really gone up.
It's true,
unfortunately.
Yes, true.
Back then, when you made $7, man, it was a lot of money. It's like making $30 today, probably.
Yeah.
I bought a Les Paul, and then James Taylor hit. James Taylor, Kenny Loggins, and I could always sing. Okay. I was always singing, so I gravitated after a couple of years, towards the acoustic guitar. And that's what I've been doing since 20.
Was it hard to put the electric away?
No, I still have one and own them and play them. I put a lot of time in working stuff off of records, you know. So did you kind of go in the opposite, where like Keith Richards' advice, you should always go acoustic first, and then the electric was the reward? I did go electric, because when I was, 10 or 11, whenever it was, I'm thinking I was 10, 65, because the Beatles were 64. We bought that electric guitar and an amp. My dad went and bought this big amp at a pawn shop, and it was a Harmony 440. It was basically the twin reverb for Harmony. Nice. And it was loud. Turn that thing down. No.
No one wanted an acoustic guitar, did they? I mean,
no, not then.
Even Dylan didn't want an acoustic at that time. Everyone was going electric. So
and Dylan had his first record, but I didn't hear about him till maybe 67, 68. Okay. And of course, songwriting and. So
what about James Taylor? What was different with him than, what hooked? I guess
it's just any kind of music to me that's genuine. The Beatles were genuine. Mm-hmm. I could tell if something's put together and somebody's producing it versus, I always gravitated towards the old blues guys, and I never really knew why until I realized it's the genuine sound and feeling, the honesty. That's raw. Them. Yeah. It's raw. It's them. And rock bands have it, not all of them. Right. And especially the 60s music. Right. It was before the business took over and started doing the cookie cutter thing. Yeah. It's got to be this. It's got to be that. It's got to be this long. Right. 2 minutes, 38 seconds is all we want. Yeah. Whatever. And so I'm always attracted to something genuine.
So when did you start?
And I think James is genuine, just to answer that.
Yeah. Very much so.
Just who he is, and lucky for him, it's made him a lot of money.
Have you seen, and I don't know if it's a YouTube series, I know they're on YouTube, his James Taylor, how to tune a guitar, and James Taylor, how to...
Someone's told me about some of that, but I've never checked it out.
I watched a couple.
I spent so much time with James on records.
Yeah. It was just interesting. I watched a couple minutes of it, and I was like, man, James is intense. He's going to make sure this guitar is tuned. And, I'm too sloppy. I was like, this is beyond me. And, he's talking about his nails and how he... Was it, I don't know, acrylic, whatever, he put stuff on his nails to keep them,
his guitars, when I think back, saying that now, when I think back, there's nothing out of tune on his records. Right. Versus Bob Dylan, where some of his records, his guitar's out of tune. Yeah. It just is, and, most people don't know it, but a musician can hear it.
Yeah, you'd pick up on it.
James, forget it.
Yeah, he's on it. He's on point.
He's on it. You don't even think about it.
So when did you first, get into a studio? When did you first record something?
That's a good question. I would say I probably did it with Rebirth, 1978. We moved to Atlantic City. Okay. After the Akron thing, my dad got another job with a contract. Oh, same contractor, moved to South Florida. So they went to South Florida, and I joined them later in '74, I think.
Okay.
And went to some open mics down there.
Down in Florida?
Yeah, and met some musicians, and we ended up. One of them was from Atlantic City. The casinos were just being built.
Yeah.
He said, "There's a lot of gigs going on up in Atlantic City." I said, "Well, let's go." Because by that point, my parents had showed me that it's okay to travel. At 13, we left Kensington, Lower Borough, went to Akron, then they went to Fort Lauderdale, and I joined them. And I'm like, oh, this is fun traveling.
Right.
Let's do it. Okay, let's go to Atlantic City.
Let's get out there. So you recorded in Atlantic City then?
In Atlantic City, in Ventnor, which is the neighboring little town right beside Atlantic City.
It's like we're playing Monopoly here. Yeah, exactly. Right. The streets on that.
That's right.
So
we lived on 17th South Michigan Avenue.
Nice. Yes. It's always important to get that next to Indiana, right? So did you? I mean, were you with a band or was it just you?
It was a trio.
Okay.
We had a trio. It was another singer player like myself, and then a flute player who also played a little guitar, and he sang bass. He had that low, and it was fun. We did originals mostly. I think. That's all we did, really. So
did you all gig around in Atlantic City, or did you tour a little bit, or would you?
We gigged around Atlantic City. Chris ended up leaving. I met Melissa, and I was just completely gone meeting her.
Yeah.
And I did some things that band members are known to do, like Neil Young, or just get disinterested because you got something else going. And when I did that,
he's kind of infamous for that, isn't he?
Chris just left, and I'm like, well, where are you going? He goes, I'm just. Anyway, he ended up going back to Florida, and it was Ray and I.
Yeah.
And Ray and I were playing one night out in a little club, and this older gentleman leaves a card. At the end of the song, I look at it. It says Atlantic City Union 661-708. I know that because later I had to join it. And I thought, oh, this guy wants us to join a union. And I took it to and showed the music store owner in Atlantic City. He goes, oh, no, that's Cy Zettner. Cy Zettner, he's the new music director at the casino they're building. You see that crane? He's going to be the music director. He probably wants to hire you guys. This is what you do. He goes, call him up. He goes, he's going to want you to come see him. You go see him. You sit down, talk to him. Tell him you want $1,000 a night because he's going to ask you what you want. I said, $1,000 a night? I said, we just made $30 last night each, and I'm like, happy. He goes, trust me, do this. Sure enough, we called him up. He says, can you guys come over? I want to talk with you a little bit. Okay, we come over. We're sitting there, long hair, beard, and he says, I love you guys. I love what you're doing. You're not doing that top 40 commercial crap. You're doing stuff that's real. And I said, well, thank you. He goes, I want to hire you for the Punch Bowl Lounge when we open up next August. What do you want a night? I mean, it was like he was doing exactly what
Like
Tony.
falling in steps, right?
I said, $1,000 a night would be great. And I can't really repeat what he said, but he stood up on his desk and he looked at me. He said, you're out of your mind. And I'm like, oh, I messed that up. I'm thinking to myself, I'm 21 or 2.
Yeah.
And or 3, or I don't know. But anyway, he goes, I like your style. He leans back, opens a file drawer, throws a contract in front of him. He goes, that's what I can pay you. That's what I'm paying this duo out in Vegas, and they've been with me for 5 years.
Okay.
It was $1,750 a week for the two of us. I'm like, I don't know, Ray. What do you think? He goes, you guys are killing me. You guys are, you're going to take this. I go, you're right. He goes, who put you up to this? I said, Tony over at the music store. He goes, I'm going to have a talk with Tony. Anyway.
So you got $1,750 a week.
A week. And we kept that gig for a year.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. I mean,
that was great. I gained weight.
It'd be hard not to take that
now.
Dinner.
Melissa and I would go out to dinner all the time. And
nice.
It was fabulous.
So living in Atlantic City, did you like Atlantic City?
It was great. It was just growing then.
Yeah.
There was 2 or 3 casinos.
So how often did you play a week then? For that 17?
We played, I think, 6 nights. It could have been 5, but I think it was 6.
How were you playing long sets or more than once a night?
We just did 4 hours a night.
Okay.
From 5 to 9.
So is it like in a lounge, like people are drinking in the back?
Yeah, it's in a lounge
okay.
Where people would sit after they'd lost money or won money or waiting for dinner.
Okay.
There was a nice restaurant, 100 feet away.
So, okay. So out of Atlantic City, where was your next move?
Atlantic City, then New York State, because Melissa's parents were from New York State. I'd met Melissa during this at a college out in South Jersey, Stockton State College. And my life changed with her.
Yeah.
Coal mining town to Park Avenue. I go to meet her family. This is great because, I'm scared. I'm really nervous. And her mother's as sweet as can be, and she's cooking all afternoon, and I'm playing her music, and she's loving it, and I'm feeling good. Her dad walks in, and her dad says, "Hi, nice to meet you. I've heard a lot about you. I'll be right back." And anyway, so he comes back, and I really can't tell you the actual story. But we hit it off really well.
Good.
And he never looked down his nose at me. Here I am.
So wait a minute. So this is your wife?
No, this is my late fiance.
Okay, your late
She ended up passing away 7 years.
Okay, so your late fiance, and you're meeting her parents.
Her parents.
And what does her father do? I assume
He's a mortgage banker
in New York City.
New York City.
Sounds pretty.
He gave Donnie Trump, that's what he called him.
Donnie Trump.
His first loan.
Get out.
That's right. And Donnie turned around and tried to rip him off.
So this guy had seen them all. I mean,
yeah,
I imagine the world of New York City real estate's pretty cutthroat, to say the least.
Mike was. I didn't know about Mike's professional career until he died 4 years ago at his funeral.
Okay.
Every major mortgage banker in Manhattan was there, and Mike was known as the Hammer.
Okay.
Donnie's dad used to call Mike when Donnie couldn't close a deal.
Okay.
And a half hour later, this is a eulogy. Everybody come out of the office laughing. The deal was done. So everybody was happy. He goes, Mike, he was the Hammer, and everybody loved him. That's the kind of guy he was. Now, here I am from a coal mining town, a musician, dating a daughter whose father is very wealthy on Park Avenue.
Okay.
And he treated me like gold.
So you just got
every second that I've ever known him. So. And I've never saw him look down his nose at anybody.
Yeah.
And her mother later became Walter Cronkite's chief of staff.
Okay.
And that's how I ended up meeting Walter and spending holidays with him.
So let's dig in that a little bit because I don't often get Walter Cronkite stories in my day. So at what time is this? Is this after his post? When he retired from CBS?
He's retired from CBS.
Okay.
Yes. And Marlene is his chief of staff, Melissa.
So she's because he lived a very active life the last 20 whatever years.
Until unfortunately he had dementia, he was no longer. But Marlene continued to work for him.
So it was her job to schedule him,
be there for him, make sure the one time she wasn't there, she stayed because we were coming back to visit, and she stayed for the weekend, and he was on Martha's Vineyard. Uh-huh. And we were watching the show with Marlene, and she's looking at the camera angle on him, and she goes, "He's going to kill me. He's going to kill me." And sure enough, he called a half hour later and said, "I'm never doing this without you again. If I didn't love you, I'd fire you." And because I guess his camera, looking at the camera was up. Your producer might know. We're
still looking for a good angle for me, so I understand that.
Exactly.
So we're still struggling on that.
Yeah,
so it was her job to work for Walter Cronkite, and then so through her you got to meet him.
Got to meet him, and then Melissa's father's father.
Okay.
Melissa's grandfather was in show business in New York. So I spent many days with lots of celebrities.
Well, so what was Walter Cronkite like?
Walter was
that
great.
Like?
Walter was as good as just as nice a man as he is. That we all Uncle Walter, right?
It was real.
It was real.
He
was fun.
Because you met who wouldn't he known, right?
Yeah, he was fun. He signed a guitar for me. He said, "I've never signed a guitar," and it was Thanksgiving. We were watching football, and I'm on the mute was on, and I'm strumming guitar, and he's sitting here, and I said, "Walter, have you ever signed a guitar for anybody?" He goes, "No, I don't believe I have." So we got a pen, and the back of the headstock, he wrote the date.
Yeah,
I think it was 11/27/2006.
Okay, wow.
And
so now, and I just remember you telling me this. I don't know why my mind hooks on this memory, but so near the end, he had was it Alzheimer's? Or?
He had dementia.
So he's struggling through that, obviously,
right.
but something about drumming was healthy for him.
Yeah, Mickey Hart adored Walter
of the Grateful Dead.
He adored Walter, and unfortunately, I've never met Mickey, but I almost was lucky enough to spend a little time with him at Thanksgiving. But he ended up going to Great Britain.
Now, not a lot of podcasts can I get in a Donnie Trump reference, a Grateful Dead reference, and a Walter Cronkite reference. It only gets better. It only gets better.
And it all happened with a meeting of Melissa.
Yeah. So what would Mickey do for?
Nicky had drums everywhere Walter was known to spend time. His apartment in New York, Marlene's apartment in New York, and their country house, which is upstate in Carmel, New York. There were a set of Taos drums, hand drums.
Okay.
3 of them.
Yeah.
And so Walter would like to sit around and drum them. He had a nice rhythm. So there's photos of him and me playing. I would play music, and he would, sit and drum. And one great photo of him and me is we just happened to end at exactly the same time on this one song.
Yeah.
And we looked at each other, and he puts his hand up, and I'm shaking hands, and we're both laughing. And Marlene just happened to be there with the camera, which is great. So I have that hanging in my house.
That's really cool.
I said, Walter, can I tell people I've been in the Walter Cronkite band? He goes, oh, I don't know if it'll do you any good, but yes, you can.
That is amazing.
Anyway, I did ask him, I said, so what do you think of the news these days? And he said 24/7.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not enough content
to go around. When I was a young man, we would, to get, 1.5 hours worth of news that was the truth, with 3 references or whatever the rule of thumb is with those guys, we'd work all week just to get a half hour.
Well, I mean, just thinking, in a short period of time, how, growing up, that 6 o'clock for local, 6:30 for national that was engraved. I mean, it didn't matter where you were watching, and how that's just, I don't even think of it. I mean, that's not even in the consciousness.
No, you can put it on. So it's entertainment now. It's opinionated news.
And it's constant.
That's what he said. It's opinionated news.
That's too much.
What do you believe? He goes, read. He goes, go online and read. You'll find the truth in there somewhere.
If you read, which we always like to hear. I mean, that's a good thing from here.
Yeah.
You've recorded a lot of things with a lot of different people, played with a lot of different people, from musicians to world famous news reporters. It's a little bit about your creative process, like when you write a song, or even when you take another person's song. Because I kind of think once you start singing, it's yours. Like it's you got to make it your own, or it's never. You never connect if you can make it your own. But how do you like in a songwriting process? How do you do that? What's your process?
Well, I usually wait for songs to come.
Okay.
It's usually a feeling where you could feel something happening inside, and you say, "Well, I better go grab my guitar."
Yeah.
And I have something similar to that little recorder sitting there.
Yeah.
In my guitar case, and I'll click it and throw down a first verse or a music idea.
So do you start with lyrics first, or do you start with music first?
Music a lot of times.
Okay.
Sometimes lyrics just pop out.
Right.
And I'm finally getting pretty good at it. I mean, I've always been driven to write songs.
Yeah.
I can't say that because I met so many great songwriters in my life.
Yeah.
I've been intimidated.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
But there is one thing which I've mentioned before. The only thing you have to worry about when writing a song is be genuine.
Yeah.
If you're genuine, it'll be a good song. Someone will say, that's a pretty good tune.
Well, what was it?
So you have to be genuine.
I always liked, I think it was David Bowie was like, if I like it, then someone else will, because I'm not that unique. Which, I don't know if that was exactly what he said, but, along those lines, he was that unique. But
He was a highly creative
But
person.
Having said that, I thought that was always an encouraged thing to tell any music creator, doesn't matter what it is. If you're taking some pride in it and you get it, there's enough. You got an audience.
Somebody else will get it.
I mean, listen to some of Lou Reed stuff. It's like
that's
out there.
You talk about genuine. I mean, really, most people would say Lou Reed didn't have a great voice, but he did because he was doing Lou Reed.
I think that's the key.
It's genuine. Again,
if you write your own stuff, you can kind of have a bad voice if you're doing your own. If you're doing your own music.
Ian Hunter,
said
Bob Dylan made it okay for me to sing and everybody else that doesn't have the greatest voice in the world.
Man, and I'm awful at remembering anything, or if I have to repeat anything, I'm just the worst at it. But I don't know how his memory retention from his songs. I mean, they're
Bob,
7 verses.
Some of them are long,
7 verses, and
he's a brilliant guy.
I mean, that's just to me that's very impressive. I know maybe that's missing the whole point of what he's all about, but it's those little niche things that I kind of like.
It's true.
Wow, you memorize that?
But he'd probably forget, to meet you somewhere if you're his friend and said, "Hey, can we meet next week?" He might forget to show up.
I heard a story, completely just getting off the track, but where Bob was watching Seinfeld and he wanted to do a special, like Bob Dylan, like version of Seinfeld. Mm-hmm. And so someone heard this and a bunch of people started working on it. And then he decided, nah, Bob Dylan doesn't want to do that. He just walked out of the room. Like he had a meeting with all these people and they were going to make like, and he just decided, it's not for me.
It wasn't feeling right.
Just walked away.
It was an idea that when he really thought about it, wasn't working.
That would probably have been the most esoteric show ever.
I think that would have been pretty cool.
It would have been out there.
Talk about ratings. I think that would have gotten a lot of ratings.
So now let's say in the theory, like you got a song down. How long would you kind of play? Would you kind of take it out a little bit, play some gigs with it before?
Well, there's a great thing that the reason I'm in town tonight is there's a songwriters thing hosted by a guy named Pat Who Kennedy.
Okay.
And it's a songwriters open mic, and the rule is you got to play your own tunes. Now, there's nothing like playing one of your songs in front of people.
Yeah.
For that song will tell you what's wrong with it. It will tell you as you're performing it. It will say that verse wasn't good.
Yeah.
So when you perform it in front of people, the song will let you know what's working in case you don't know. Sometimes you just know and it works, but a lot of times when you're not Bob Dylan or somebody, when things just aren't working, you don't know. So actually tonight I have a new song that popped out, one of those 10-minute songs.
Yeah.
And it's called Fly Away. I can't wait to play it tonight because in my mind it's like, this is a pretty good song, but it will let me know later.
So who are you getting feedback from then? Is it just you internally?
It's not feedback that anybody says anything.
Okay.
You just know. It's internal. Correct. Yeah. It's internal. You know.
The energy that you get back after playing
you know
it.
that verse.
So how far
that worked, that
how far are you into a song before you know it's where you want it to be?
It depends on the verse.
Yeah.
And, at this point in my career, even if I feel like, that wasn't working, you just still give it your 100% effort.
Yeah.
And then the applause will tell you.
Yeah.
People, whether it's polite or whether it's a little bit enthusiasm, and it is a bar room. So it's not like it'd be the library jobs are, libraries are wonderful for lots of things, where people are applauding, it's quiet. It's a bar room, so... If it's a slow ballad, the 3 or 4 people listening, you can tell by their enthusiasm.
I always joke about that because I think you and I have had this conversation maybe at a previous library I was at, but you compare playing in a public library if you get a chance compared to some of the dive bars you go to, and you're just like, oh man, it's nice to play in a library. It's just nice.
It's a concert.
Yeah, it's clean. People are appreciative.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a different.
It is.
You don't know what you're getting into in some of these bars when you play out. Which is part of the fun.
Your background.
Yeah, that's true too.
Your background. Everybody's there at a party. The owner wants to sell as many beers without getting in trouble as he can, putting somebody out on a street that can't drive.
Right.
Excuse me. And so. Yeah, the bar gigs are.
It's just different.
Good practice. You can get a lot of practice in. Nobody's listening. Let's try that one song.
There is a freedom. There is a freedom in that, right?
Well, I was telling you before, the Crow Daddies, the duo I have with Dennis, we've never had a rehearsal.
Right.
We've always just played clubs, and between us, we played 112 years.
Yeah, you got it down.
Because he's 72 and I'm 63.
Nice.
He started in like 1960.
Isn't that kind of encouraging, though? You can, that you can be 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
And then it never goes away.
It doesn't. No.
Whatever that is.
Do it forever.
Whatever that creating process is, it's like you chase it.
It doesn't. I've often wondered when I was young, I look forward to see what would happen with some of our old rockers too.
Yeah.
Like Paul McCartney. It's great to see him. He takes great care of himself.
Right.
And he's still doing it. He still sounds amazing.
Well, I even think even the case, let's say like of the Who, where it's, just things have changed. I mean, you lose members and stuff like that.
Right.
But I think, I can't remember who I was in this conversation with, but they're like, why would you still do that? And I was like, where else are you going to get that high? Where else is that rush going to come from of breaking into Baba O'Reilly?
It was magic. So why do you want to stop? They created magic, those bands. Which
makes Robert Plant even more interesting.
Yeah.
In that there's a guy who seems like he can go in any direction he wants.
He can.
Whenever he wants and just...
he turned down, $500 million?
Yes. Yeah. I'm good.
Yeah. Who can turn down that kind of money? Obviously, he's always been a sensible guy.
Yeah.
Yes. And he didn't have an easy life, so I'm sure he's a neat guy.
So a little bit about your writing. So kind of just, you're not really, it's not Tin Pan Alley. You're not trying to churn out songs. It's when it comes to you, and then you kind of capture that thought.
It's a hobby for me. I've never made my living as a songwriter, so it's just something I've always done.
Yeah. So now to try to, I guess, kind of segue. So obviously the passion's there. Yeah. How did you get into creating instruments for a living?
Well, Melissa, my fiance that I met, whose mother, she passed away in 1986 from asthma. Okay. When she passed away, her mother and father said to me, "You're not getting away. You're our son. We love you. We hope that you stick around and stay around." So I did. Yeah. And her father started, after a year, her father started fixing me up with all these great ladies and just to do something, you know.
And this is living in Manhattan? Or?
I was living in their country house upstate. Okay. At that time, Mike and Marlene, Melissa's parents, were divorced. On very good terms, but divorced. And Mike said, "Go stay in a country house. I'm never there. And just fix it up," which I redid his floors, and because I worked in construction all my life, off and on. So I did a lot of stuff to pay the rent. Redid his bathrooms.
You earned your keep.
I did.
You were not the Cato Kalen here.
I was doing gigs upstate New York and in Connecticut, and Massachusetts, and Rhode Island, and Manhattan. I played all the neat clubs in Manhattan. Yeah. And Mike, her father, knew everybody. And I met these people through him. And one of them was vice president of ABC Sports, Steve Sullivan. Okay. Steve contracted Hank Jr. to do that Monday Night Football segment. And, of course, in the business, it's all favors. Who do you know and favors? Yeah. And so Steve, I had just put out, when Melissa passed away, I went into the studio for therapy, and I ended up doing a whole record. Yeah. And I put it out on cassette. And Steve talked to Hank's manager and says, "Hey, this is my friend Jamonn. Can you do anything for him?" Merle Kilgore was his manager, who wrote Ring of Fire with June Cash, well known in his own right. And I get a call from Merle. "Hey, Jamonn, this is Merle Kilgore." I didn't know who I was talking to. I didn't know it was the Merle Kilgore who wrote Ring of Fire. I go, "Oh, yeah, Steve told me you might call." He goes, "I love your stuff." He goes, if Jim Ed Norman signs you, I'll manage you." Jim Ed Norman. I looked him up. For as much as I could back then. He was president of Warner Brothers Nashville. So
a little record label there.
So
a little indie.
A week later, I get a call from Jim Ed. Yeah. And my wife says, "Jamonn, get up. It's Jim Ed." It was probably 10 o'clock, and I was working late all the time. So, "Hi, this is Jamonn." He goes, "Hi, this is Jim Ed Norman, president of Warner Brothers Nashville." He goes, "Merle Kilgore says he'll manage you if we can get you signed, and I'm just calling to talk with you a little bit." I'll back up a little bit. I'm a folk singer. I'm a folky rock. Dan Fogelberg, James Taylor. Right. Garth Brooks had just been signed with Clint Black, and they sing with those kind of a country twang, which is not genuine. But
it's not. There. It's not you.
It's put on. Yeah. And I told Jim Ed in our conversation, "Look, I can't sing with it. I'm not going to sing with a fake country accent." Right. He said, "Well, we wouldn't want you to." Yeah. But anyway, so that fell through. And when that fell through, I knew that if I got that close, that I better figure something else out to do for a living. Because Wendy, my wife, who Melissa's father fixed me up with, we were married. He was our best man. Wow. She was pregnant. Okay, so I thought, well,
life's happening.
Yeah. So I thought, I was looking through the then brand new publishing company that published Acoustic Guitar Magazine, and there was an ad in the back for a place in Saskatchewan for a 7-week seminar on how to build a guitar. Okay. And my wife says to me, that sounds like just enough information to be dangerous. If you want to do this, you should look for a school. So I called the Martin Company. A guy named Mike Longworth.
Martin is Martin Guitars, right?
Martin Guitar. Mike Longworth got on the phone and said something about Red Wing, Minnesota, a 1-year course in building and repair. And I called, and long story short, I ended up moving out there for a year, the whole family. We spent $30,000 in savings for schooling and to rent a house for 10 months. Our daughter was then, by that time, she was 2. Okay. We left school. She was 3.
Yeah.
End of the year, we have no money, and our apartment in New York is rented. And the phone rings at school, and the teacher announces that morning that there's a job opening in Cincinnati. It's a salary plus commission, full benefits, and a retirement fund. And they're looking for an older guy, and he kind of looked at me. And I was 34.
Yeah.
Everybody else is on their parents' ticket. They're 18, 19, 20, smoking pot. And I was serious. None of that stuff for me. And so I stood up, finished my resume, got the guy on the phone, made it to the post office to overnight him my resume within like 4 hours. It was on its way to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Next day, I called them, and I had a plane reservation. By the next evening, I had a plane reservation to fly back in a week for an interview. Nice. And that's how I ended up in Cincinnati. And Buddy Rogers Music was a great company to work for.
You were with them for a number of years, then,
12
right?
years.
Okay, so
they were the last company, no kidding, in our country that anyone knows about, because I would go to guitar maker and repair symposiums every year. All the repair guys and guitar makers, I'd tell them my deal, salary plus benefits, full package. They'd go, that's what they give you?
Yeah.
He goes, let me know if you ever leave. Let me know if you ever leave that job. I'll take that job. And so I realized how lucky I was a couple years into it.
You're in the right place.
Yeah, they really cared about repair.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they do today. They have a band repair. That's all they do now. They got blasted by the big corporation music stores, so they're no longer in business selling combo stuff.
Who are not struggling too, with the irony of all things.
Yeah.
So how did learning that much about a guitar, did that change your relationship with the music at all? I mean,
it did, but at that point I was already setting up my instruments and some friends.
That had always been kind of your thing. I mean, this was an interest.
Yeah, I grew up working with my hands.
Right.
I was with my father doing everything around the house, always. And my dad was one of those master craftsmen. I mean, cabinet, he could make a cabinet that would look beautiful. He hated hacks. One of his things was people who hack stuff up.
Yeah.
So he's one of the last. So he taught me a lot about working with my hands.
You had that kind of, for lack of a better term, that Midwest pride.
I did.
Of creating as far as...
Well, you do it yourself.
Right. Your name's on it, right?
You don't take... My mother, to her dying day, couldn't believe that I made a living repairing instruments. Well, doesn't everybody do that for themselves? No, Mom. I'm doing okay here.
I may have taken guitars to Jamonn. So,
yeah. I mean, they were just that generation where they did everything themselves.
Of course, fixing my own guitar, I never would have heard about Walter Cronkite, so I feel like it was all kind of worth it. Because all that stuff.
It's good to know you, Sean.
And it'd be broken, too, on top of that. My incompetence, along with a very good storyteller, are just two wonderful reasons to bring that. I've always enjoyed that.
Well, I mean, not everybody is that. I obviously grew up around people who work with their hands. Not everybody grows up around those people.
No, it's definitely a different mentality. I mean, it's not like it's going away. It just always kind of changes. And there's a group of people who,
thinking back with Mike again and redoing his work around his house, you go, how do you do that? I mean, he worked with his mind. I mean, he was numbers.
So what is, from a business side and going through it, what is some kind of advice you'd have to other creators out there listening of publishing and how to go through that, or that kind of the whole self-publishing and kind of, I mean, what works for you is what I'm getting at.
You want to copyright your songs.
Okay.
That's the main thing before you get them out there.
Now, how do you do that?
You could do it. I don't know. Does the library have copyright forms? They used to.
Okay. So you just go online
from my library in Mount Kisco, New York.
Oh, really? Okay.
They used to have them there. It's probably online now.
Yeah.
Now it is online, actually.
So you copyright your songs?
Did last year. Which I need to do. I got a whole couple dozen, which I need to do. Because you never know when someone's going to take them or hear it and by accident go write the same song.
Right.
I mean, subconscious.
Well, that's always like, the lawsuits or the whole story of where Hotel California came from and who did the original and this chord progression. And there's only 7, right? You're in a limited.
There's only 12 musical notes.
Yeah, so everything's going to sound like everything, right? So.
I was in a Pizza Hut one night and Garth Brooks came on and he was singing a melody that I'd written, and it was written by a guy named Pat Alger, and Pat's from New York State, where I'm from.
Yeah,
and I had to think. I used to play that song a lot. Was Pat having dinner one night in the audience?
Yeah.
Because the melody, it was so close that I actually got my tapes from the Library of Congress.
Okay.
And I tried to get a lawyer involved.
Wow.
Went to work for her last summer. Lonely kid so far from home. That's the melody.
Yeah.
My words are, will we ever get it right? Will we ever sing the same song? I mean, it's like when it comes to the chorus, it changed. But
yeah.
But again, when you listen to, I couldn't get any lawyer involved, even with Mike's help, because they said, you know what? That's a generic kind of melody. And I'm like, generic melody? What? Anyway, I gave up on it. Generic melody. It's, you're a musician. It's a G to E minor to D to C with a B minor in there sometimes.
Yeah,
and that's just it has been used. The Beatles used it.
Yeah.
But still, it was a melody.
B minor comes up a lot in the Beatles, doesn't it? Yeah, it comes up a lot.
They wrote a lot of minors, which didn't happen until then.
I mean, their
progressions were very progressive.
There's something about the sound of a minor. It just sounds obviously it's supposed to be dark, but I like it.
Well,
I like it
when you're doing a major song, when you throw the relative minor in, it makes everybody listen again. It's like, oh, there's a change. Even if it's a subconscious thing, you go, oh, there's a change. What's that? And so you want to throw the minors. I mean, I also probably like the minors because I could play an E minor pretty easy. Yeah, I could figure that out. F minor, not so much. It's I can't quite borrow that, but E minor, you're like, oh yeah, I can handle that. But no. One day I worked out. I wanted to know what chords Mozart used. Yeah. And being an ear player, I've worked everything out by record.
Which is an impressive ability, by the way, to be an ear player.
Well, it is. My
As someone who does not have that ability,
I used to have no shoes or socks and a turntable would be right here, and I would use my toe, and I would back up the record and hear that riff and let it go. And I would back it up some more.
No, that's a process right there. Yeah. That's a unique process. I like that. I don't know if a lot of people are doing the record to toe method.
More than me did it because I was really excited when I heard Duane Allman used to do that.
Yeah.
And I did it because I was living in South Florida at the time, and you didn't really wear shoes. So
there you go.
You'd throw them off and walk around. But anyway, so I worked out once. This is interesting, just real quick as another musician. I worked out a Mozart progression.
Yeah.
And it was the exact same chords. And of course, in hindsight, any trained musician would say, of course. Yeah. It was A minors. It was, there is a house. And you know that progression.
Yeah, of course.
Well, this particular symphony was that progression. A minor, C, D, F. I'm like, oh, it's just like what we use today. It's the same stuff.
Yeah. What's an experience that you have grown up of your local library?
I loved my libraries because I loved reading. My mom did read. Yeah. And so, of course, we grew up reading. Yeah. I just finished a novel, Band of the Midnight Mercy, I think it was. What was it called? Oh, it was great. It was based on a true story in Manhattan in the turn of the last century. Okay. 1800s and 1900. About a church organization they were slumlords, and they were in the baby business of insuring babies and then buying back the insurance and then with the babies.
This is the church?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was pretty.
This is
based on a true
These
story.
are some minor chords we're talking about here.
Band of the Midnight Mercy.
Band of the Midnight Mercy.
I think that's it. Something like that.
So is a story about how they caught these people?
Yeah, how a reporter for the Herald, I think it was called the Herald. At least it was in the novel. They probably changed the name. How he painstakingly, everybody said, you can't go after them. They're too powerful. Yeah. He stuck with it, and through a lot of physical pain and a lot of mental pain, he got them.
See, I find myself becoming an awful reader because I will read and I'll like something, and then I will put it down and I will start pretending, I know what I'm doing with a guitar, and I will start playing a guitar. Yeah. And then an hour later, kind of done with everything mentally, and I find that I've become in the last year of trying to play guitar, it's really destroyed my ability to read.
It's a long life, Sean. So you will get back to it, I promise you.
But I always think about that because I always have this list of stuff, obviously working here and walk out in the stacks. I'm like, oh, the book looks so good. And then there's like 3 behind me that I've started to read. And then all of a sudden.
That could be part of the problem, you working around it all the time.
Do notice, there's always something new. Yeah, the do notice comes up and I'm like, oh man, I got to get this back.
Think about how nice it is when you say, okay, I'm going to go to bed now. I'm going to go read. I love that feeling. I'm going to read for the next hour or so.
Yeah.
Until I kind of pass out. I mean, I love wintertime. To me is great for reading.
It's time to recharge. Yeah.
I read all year long. I have something I'm reading, but I'm looking for a new book.
Hey,
I just finished this one.
We'll hook you up before you leave. We'll put you in touch with Karen. Actually, she's got some real good recommendations.
Yeah, that's nice.
No, it's kind of when you talk about that. That's always remember the because I haven't watched the show in years, so I mean I'm sure they still do it. But the whole Today Show and the 100-year birthdays and stuff, and it always seems like they're from Minnesota and Wisconsin, Upper Michigan, where you hibernate for 4 months a year. So
that's true.
It recharges you, man. You keep going. You take that time.
It's true.
You slow it down. You take that time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it feeds the mind. Reading is. My daughter was a voracious reader. She just read, and she's a good writer.
Yeah, it's a good skill to have.
She's a dental hygienist.
Hey,
so you're going to write a novel one day, and keep writing. Oh, Dad, she was great. She's got heard little stories when she was in school.
It never goes away.
Always A+, and the teacher would make notes. Great story, Becca.
It'll never go away. It'll come back.
But she never wanted to be an artist.
I think you told me once, and I don't know why we were chatting, but I think you said she was great at guitar.
She picked it up like me, although she'd say no. But as a player, you could tell, Sean, if you ever went to teach anybody whether they're going to be able to do it or not.
It's amazing, though. It's amazing it's, I don't know, you can't explain it, as I try to now, it's a look or something, but just, and I think about that anything. Music, reading, whatever. It isn't interesting what they hatch onto. And I guess you could say the same about us. Like, well, why didn't he do X, Y, Z? And it's like, well, I was programmed to go this way. I couldn't.
That's right.
It's like the fate. I had no control. This is where I was being sent, and this is where I followed.
And like, you're lucky if you get to follow.
Well, what is was it Bobby Weir that said? Listen to me, Bobby. Like me and him are buddies, but Bob Weir, you follow the music. I think I found a little documentary, and then I don't think it was him, but someone said, we all love music, but music only loves a few of us back, or something like that. Like music doesn't love all of us back. That's true. And I don't know where I picked that up from, but that I always love that. Follow the music. You go where the music leads you. You do, and I always say too. My take on that is it takes listeners. We have to have listeners out there. Yeah, the musicians are always not the best listeners because they're too busy with their own thing. Oh, yeah. So it's nice when someone says, I just couldn't do it. I said, well, it takes listeners too. I mean, not everybody's meant to play music. What I always think is funny is when someone thinks it's merit-based, and I'm like, it's not. There's some probably poor musicians who's made a great career out of playing music. So it's not merit-based, man. You just got to get out there and do it. Just do it. I always think about that, especially if I'm like trying to play guitar, because I'm just not where I have any confidence or have done for a very long period of time. But it's like, well, but I'm doing it. I always think about their drumming somewhere and stuff like that. It's just like, well, you can take the next gig. This is mine. That's right. That's right. Get back. I was watching. I once saw B.B. King and Bobby Blues Bland. Bobby Blue Bland, yeah. And he was so great. And I remember, and I don't think I knew anything about him. I'm just listening to this guy. And it was at the Fox Theater in Detroit. And it was just cool. How long ago? Probably 20 years ago. Yeah. And it was just cool. Right. The crowd, like everyone was dressed so nice. I'm looking like a bum. And it was like, you could just, there's an energy, man. People came out. This was Detroit, and they were out, and this was their night. And I just thought it was so funny because he's like, he's the middle guy. So this was the Manhattans, and Bobby's on stage, and he's like, are you all ready for B.B. King? And everyone gets real excited. And he's like, well, that's too bad because I've still got more to say. This is my show. And I always thought that was just the neatest kind of way to interact. Like, that's fine, but I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And then, you can have it later, B.B. So I just, and obviously I saw them in 76. Where at? Akron. Okay. Went back to visit my old high school buddy, Doug. Doug says, and Doug was always a very unusual guy. He made his own suits. Nice. Doug was just meant to be old and British, I think. Yeah. But he says, we're going to a concert tonight. I'm going to take you to see B.B. King and Bobby Blue Bland. Nice. And so we're young and white skin. And we're the only two white skinned people there. And we're young. Yeah. He goes, don't worry. He goes, they won't bother us at all. I'm like, I'm not worried. But it was fun to be there. And Doug, I recently learned that he passed away at about 63 years old, unfortunately. Wow, yeah. But, anyway, It's an experience.
So they toured all their lives together.
Yeah.
Bobby Blue Bland. And
it's such a cool experience.
Fabulous.
And I think like that whole John Cage. You're part of the crowd, and you're taking that in, and that added just as much to it. It was just a cool vibe. I don't know how to explain it. It was like it's one of those where you young enough or whatever to be, but old enough to be conscious of what I was part of something cool.
That's right.
And
it really was a big eye opener for me.
Oh yeah.
Just
a different. So as we completely jump around and just
sorry about that.
No, that's me. Dissension to randomness. What are some live shows that you've seen that you're just like, that was a really cool show?
Michael Hedges.
No,
2 months before he passed away.
Who's Michael Hedges?
Michael Hedges brought the fingerstyle. All the fancy fingerstyle players you see these days. Well, he was like one of the first.
Okay.
Windham Hill Records. Familiar with Windham Hill Records?
No.
You should get yourself.
Okay, I need to get on.
You should. Fingerstyle players. It was the first record company that would just have fingerstyle players, like the kind you probably had them here playing.
Yeah.
They don't sing. They just open tunings.
Okay.
Standard tunings.
Yeah.
Harp guitars.
Yeah.
And Michael Hedges was one of those. And I saw him at Bogart's, and I heard about him a little bit. And he came flying out of the back with his D28, tapping and playing. And I was like...
Now, these are acoustic or electric?
These are acoustic.
Okay, acoustic.
I was just, is this God? I couldn't believe the tone, the sound, and what he was doing.
Yeah.
That one stuck with me a long time.
Yeah.
And then he was from the West Coast. 2 months later, he was driving his BMW too fast on 101 out there and went over a cliff.
Wow.
He was fabulous. Just fabulous. That one stuck in my head. There's a lot of them. John Prine.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, John's funny.
It's crazy as a loon.
Crazy as a loon. I mean, he's genuine.
Yeah.
Anybody that's genuine like that.
Oh, I love Paradise.
Yeah.
I love the Jim and Jess version of it. I don't know, there's the right amount of twang or whatever in it for me, but there's something about that I don't know. It's just such a great. Yeah, it's just and if you look at it, he's not trying to impress you with how smart he is. I mean, he's just they're nice, compact. He's telling a story.
He's telling a story. I recently posted on Facebook a few months ago that I prefer Prine over Dylan.
Okay.
Of course, I got a lot of
hits. That's a take. That's a take. Yeah.
And I'm going, it's just, John is just, Dylan can be a little more abstract.
Right.
And I love that. But John's not abstract.
No.
And it's hard to be non-abstract when you're writing a song. It's hard not to try to let somebody think about something in another way.
Yeah.
It's very hard to do what John Prine does. Yeah. It really is. It's hard to write direct like that.
Well,
and then rhyme it. And be clever with it.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Yeah, the whole rhyming, yeah.
And he does it naturally.
Yeah, because it's kind of like if you do too much, it descends into...
It does. It's trite.
A little slappy. Yeah, a little slappiness. It's like, it's just like... I know some people, and growing up, I was like, I thought they're great. And I listen to it now, I was like, I just can't. It's just, whatever, that's what... So, okay, so who else? Those are two really good ones, by the way, though.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, Dylan, some of his stuff's not that abstract.
Right.
But I'm a Prine guy. I like Prine. I love them both. I mean,
so, who is someone you always wanted to see that you never saw?
Dwayne.
Okay,
Dwayne Allman.
Well, he was 24, right?
Yeah, he was dead in 1971. I didn't hear him until 73 or 4 or something.
Isn't it amazing what he did, though? In
24 years?
Yeah.
He was a hard worker. And again, going back to that same old word I'm using.
Yeah.
He was genuine.
Yeah, but
he was what he was. And he didn't, if you didn't suit him or if you were too much of the BS, he had a great detector for that. He'd say, I'll see you later. I mean, he wanted to be around genuine, and he was genuine.
Just such a compact career, but everything is still memorable. Layla, all right?
I mean, Clapton will probably tell you to this day that album may not have been published without Dwayne getting involved. I mean, nothing against his buddies Whitlock and Jim Gordon and Carl Radle, but he felt like it was just fizzling out for him.
Well, that's such a tumultuous band.
Yeah, and
things went kind of sideways with some of them, pretty bad, unfortunately.
Well, one of Clapton's regrets in his biography that I read was getting rid of Carl Radle.
Okay,
the great bass player, just a great rhythm bass player.
Why do you get rid of him?
Just time goes on, and
just didn't feel right.
Who knows?
Kind of like getting rid of.
He probably doesn't know. I know he regrets it, but Carl was a great bass player. Jim Gordon was a great drummer, but he was...
he had some demons.
He's in prison for killing his mother.
Yeah, that's...
He was sick. He's
kind of like Sid Barrett, but it didn't turn out as...
Yeah, and Bobby Whitlock is fabulous.
Yeah, that's really...
But for some reason, he always manages to just put Duane down a little bit, because remember, it was Bobby and Eric that started that whole project.
Yeah.
Bobby went over to England and knocked on Eric's door, and Eric says, "What are you doing here?" He goes, "Well, you told me to come visit if I'm ever here, so here I am." He goes, "Well, come on in. I'm writing songs and stuff." So they started that project, and that Duane was such a powerful... That's just my theory.
Yeah, man.
I know it's probably true.
Oh, I have no doubt.
That Bobby was just a little bit resentful that Eric gives Duane so much. So many kudos for making it happen. Because he'll talk about Duane being a little out of tune. Well, they had strobe tuners back then, but they didn't have the tuners that you and I use.
Right.
Clipped to your guitar.
Yeah, he's a second,
And Clapton knew it was a little out, but he said, "Hey, the feeling is there. It's there. It's all that matters."
It's kind of like the band, like the Faces, early Faces and stuff. It was like sloppy, but it was
Ron Wood's great. I mean...
He is amazing. Just amazing.
I love the loose stuff.
Yeah, just completely.
Of course, F. Phil Maurice is hardly loose.
Right.
But the band was great. And that's another thing why Duane, to me, it wasn't about him. He wasn't the guitar star. He would actually give all the credit to Dickie Betts. Okay. Or the drummers. Or his brother. It wasn't about one guy in that band. It wasn't the Jimi Hendrix band. It was the Allman Brothers band. And you hear that with their live performance. It was all about everybody working together. And that's another thing that I like. Everybody's important equally in a band. If you approach a band that way, the band's going to be great. Little Feat's another example of that. They are like a machine live. Yeah. They work together. They're incredible. If you ever get a chance, they're still great.
Like I said, I think I see
Little Feat.
I think I saw them 20 years ago in Raleigh, North
I'm sure
Carolina.
You remember it, unless they were too high or something. Because the times I've seen them, man, they were just jaw-dropping, tight and dynamic, and up and down, volume up, down, get tight.
They just connected.
They just, just dynamics. That's where it's at.
Yeah. Well, Jamonn, I really appreciate you coming in and talking with me today.
Well, great. I hope I didn't mispronounce any words or say something stupid.
Well, I mean, there's no way you can with that's what I'm here for.
Edit it out if I did.
I'm guaranteed to have done probably both many times in the course of the interview. So thank you so much for joining us on this podcast.
Welcome, Sean.
It's a lot of fun.
My pleasure.
Thanks a lot
for having me. It's great. My bucket's got a hole in it. Yeah, my bucket's got a hole in it. Yeah, my bucket's got a hole in it. I can't buy no beer. Well, I'm standing on the corner with a bucket in my hand. Well, I'm waiting on a woman that ain't got no man. My bucket's got a hole in it. My bucket's got a hole in it. Yeah, my bucket's got a hole in it. I can't buy no beer.